And hello, all of you wonderful car lovers out there, and welcome to the C&C Auto Show. And I am Aaron Clements.
And I am not John Ryan Mooney.
We thought we'd throw you a curveball this morning. John Ryan Mooney is taking a well-deserved vacation, something he very seldom does, but he is on a break, and he is doing some really neat stuff. And I'll let him tell you about all of those details, but he is on break. So with us, we have Joe DeLoach. And Joe, one of the things about my position is I get to work with some of the best technicians, in my opinion, in the world. I mean, they are just absolutely fantastic. And Joe fits into that category. Joe has graduated from automotive technology. He has been an instructor for automotive technology, and he is now one of the co-managers of one of the stores, C&C Automotive stores. And just he's got a wealth of knowledge. So this will give everyone the opportunity to call in and have a whole new side of answers that we can have, a whole new view of tips on cars. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, Aaron. Thanks for having me this morning.
Well, thank you for being here. How'd your week go?
Great. We had a great week. We've been doing great at Shop 3. Been great being out there and being able to serve that new community and, just provide service in that area.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun. And Joe is the same way as John Ryan and myself and Dominic. We all, and Sandy, who is on the C&C Auto Show team, we all strive to try to give information so that you will know more about your car, because that takes the frustration out of it when you know a little bit about what's going on and someone may tell you that you need this or recommend this service. And if you know what that service entails and you've heard other people mention it, it helps a lot. And so with that being said, I have to mention that our goal is to share some information that will make your car, truck, or SUV safer, to make it more dependable, make it last longer for less money. And again, we do want to say thank you to all of you that tuned in and logged in. We really do appreciate you jumping in, riding with us on the C&C Auto Show. And we would love it if you would call in and ask that question that you have concerning your vehicle, because I know a lot of people have during the week, they may hear noises, they may have this item that they hadn't been able to get an answer to, or every time they call their service advisor, they'll say, I'll get back with you, or they're in a hurry. You hate to ask them because they're running strong. And now's your chance. We completely unbiased view on a problem that you might have, and we'll tell you how it works. Okay, and that's 706-863-5800. Now, that's on Saturday mornings, 8:05 to 10 Eastern. You can also, if you wanted to, go to ccautoshow.com and watch this show live, or you can email a question. We get a lot of emails during the week. We normally answer those. We normally pick out a few of them during this time and answer them on the show. But if you write in an email during the show, we normally try to answer it during the show. And this show is brought to you in part by Napa Heating and Cooling Systems and NGK Spark Plugs. And number again, 706-863-5800. We'll be going to those phone calls in just a second. Want to mention just a few things about the show, today's show. Joe, we're going to be one of the things that we're going to talk about, along with answering the questions, is alternative fuels. That's a big thing.
That is a big thing, and it's an emerging market, really. There's so much new stuff. A lot of the electric vehicles, what we're seeing a lot of, really.
Electric and hybrids and just so many things that there's a mixture in between. So what we'll try to do during the show is shed some light to kind of share some ideas in case one of those type vehicles is in someone's future. And my opinion is right now, there's no one set top runner. It kind of depends on the type driving that you'll be doing as to what type system would most benefit you.
It does, because, they have a lot of those little city cars that are low-range cars that are good for short commutes and stuff like that. So there's a lot of different options for what's available out there.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not sure that I would get a full electric car to make a 1 hour commute every morning.
No, you might be pushing it to work
might not
one
work
day.
out. But a hybrid, I would in a heartbeat. Okay, Joe, are you ready for us to go to some phone calls?
Looks like we got Chris here. He's got a question about his Chevrolet Suburban.
All right, now Joe is getting used to the buttons here. Okay, go for it.
All right, here he is.
Hey, Chris, welcome
Yeah.
to the C&C Auto
Hey
Show.
guys. First of all, I got to make a comment. I'm watching you guys on Facebook,
Uh-huh.
and that's the cleanest garage I've ever seen. You guys need to come over and clean my garage up like that.
Well, that's not the actual repair side of the garage. But
Okay.
yes, that is a very clean garage.
We do go through a lot of whitening toothpaste to keep the floor that clean.
And I also want to make another quick comment too.
Uh-huh.
I also noticed on your website, you guys have really expanded your radio station. So congrats to you. I mean, it's good stuff.
Well, thank you very much, Chris. Yeah, we have all the wonderful people in places like Waco, Texas. I think there's a station in Las Vegas and just different Kentucky. We've been very fortunate with that, and the main thing is it's just I don't mind telling you, it gives you a good feeling when you feel like you can share something with someone that will help them. That just means a lot to me. I know it means a lot to John Ryan, Dominic, Sandy that works with the show, and no doubt in my mind the same with Joe. So thank you for saying that.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Well, listen, the reason why I called, I was leaving my house yesterday morning, and I got about halfway out of my subdivision when my 2000 Suburban Chevrolet just stopped. I mean, the lights were still on and everything else, and I kept trying to crank it back up, and I just heard a little whining sound on the background. So I want to kind of get I thought maybe it was the spark plugs, number one, which I checked all the spark plugs. That was fine. And I just got to see, I've gone on the internet, and it seems like it's a fuel pump issue. And I want to kind of get your take on that.
Chris, I'm going to toss Joe right in the water. Joe.
I've probably put more fuel pumps on those than than just about anything else I've seen in the world. But what is odd to me is most of those that fail for a fuel pump issue almost always do it on startup. They don't normally die as often going down the road because once that pump is up and going, it's not necessarily as likely for it to stop. I don't know. That's the only thing that's throwing me off a little bit. But fuel issues on those are very, very common. Yeah, I would say that, obviously running a fuel pressure test would be one of the first things that I would definitely do to it.
Chris, has this vehicle ever had a fuel pump replaced?
No, sir, it has not.
Wow, you've been very lucky, Chris, because usually,
Oh, really?
yeah, usually it's not uncommon, and correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, but on most of those models, we see them somewhere between 100,000 and 150,000. The fuel pumps normally go bad. They are great vehicles, and go a long, long time, but fuel pumps normally in that range. I don't know how many miles you have on this one.
Yeah, I've got over 200,000.
Yeah, so you've been real fortunate. There's going to be a high probability that you have a fuel pump that went out without any warning. Now, what a technician will do first is check the fuel pressure, and then after they check the fuel pressure, they will go to the fuel pump itself and see if it's getting power and ground when you turn the key either immediately on or click it in the crank position. It should get power for about 2 or 3 seconds, something like that, 5 seconds. And if it does get power and it does have ground, no doubt it's going to be a fuel pump. And some of those models do require a new connector along with the fuel pump.
That is correct.
Okay.
But that's what you want to determine in the beginning. Are you missing fuel? Are you missing spark? You're not going to have a timing issue. You would have had a lot more warning than that. So you're either missing fuel or spark, one of those two, because it sounds like your battery's spinning over faster. Determine which one and go that direction.
The fuel pump on that car, is that located right where the tank is?
Hey, Chris, for us to tell you that answer, we got to let you hold through the break. Can you do that?
Sure.
We'll be right back.
Absolutely.
All right. Welcome back to the C&C Auto Show, and we had a little music malfunction.
Was it me? I'm still in training
We'll
here.
get
So.
that going in a few. We're back and ready for your phone call, 706-863-5800. If you have a question, just lay it on us and we will answer that. That's 8:05 to 10 Eastern time. You can watch the show or email your questions at ccautoshow.com. And if you have a spring or a summer trip planned, do not forget to have those belts and hoses checked out. They are actually one of the main items on the car that people break down for. Broken belts or either busted hoses, and of course that can cause some damage. Now, if you do need belts or hoses, I recommend getting the best, and that would be Napa hoses and belts. Okay, Joe, we were talking with Chris,
Yep.
and Chris was having an issue with what we believe is most likely a fuel pump.
That's
Now, the
correct.
question was, bring Chris back up. The question was, Chris, welcome back.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. Now, the question is, where is this fuel pump located?
And that fuel pump is in the tank, Chris. You have to remove the tank from the vehicle, and the fuel pump is accessed from the top of the tank. A little bit labor intensive. It's kind of tight in there with the drive shaft being right beside it, but
Chris, I was in the Air Force and I worked on fighter jets for some years. And what was crazy is when I was in there, I said, "Wow, this is crazy! They're putting the fuel pump on these aircraft inside the tank. That don't seem like a great idea." Well, what happens? I get it out of the Air Force, work on cars, and now they put fuel pumps inside the tank. But there's some reasoning for it. It's an electric motor. Of course, it's keeping the fuel around. It keeps it cool. And then, of course, you don't have the vapors are not there, so it's not really a hazard. And I don't know if I've ever heard of on a vehicle, a fuel pump causing an explosion. Now, I have heard of it on an aircraft before, a very unusual circumstance.
Right.
But what it amounts to is that technician, the person who diagnoses your car, they will check for, once they're sure that it's a fuel problem, don't have fuel pressure, they'll check the wires as close as they can before it goes up into the tank to find out if you have power and ground. And if you do, then they'll pretty much assume that it's right there at the pump also. They'll recommend that you drop the fuel tank down, and that tank comes in a big assembly. It'll be the tank, the sending unit, everything all connected together, and then you'll put it in there, and that no reason at all why that wouldn't take care of the problem if it didn't have the fuel pressure and had the power and ground.
Well, okay. So I think you pretty well answered my. I was hoping that it doesn't sound like this is something I could do myself.
Yeah, you were kind of hoping I'd say, and I will tell you, always a chance. I mean, you may have a fuel pump relay that's bad, and that is one of those things you take out and put another one in. But I can tell you it would be very doubtful. You more than likely right now, the best money you could spend is just to have a good diagnostic test run. And when you take it in for the diagnostic test, tell the person that what you'd like, ask how much the diagnostic test is, and they would say, and usually I see places run anywhere from $100 to $150. But that's the best money you could spend because then you know what you're working with. Once you have the diagnostic, say, what's the estimate on the fuel pump and how long will it take? Will this be a new pump, a reman pump, or whatever it is, so you'll know you're getting the quality? What's the warranty? And ask all those right questions, and then you can make the decision whether you want to say yes, let's go ahead and do it, or no, let me take a shot at it.
Okay. All right. Okay. Guys, thank you so much for your help.
you're welcome.
Chris, great questions, and appreciate you calling too. Okay, the number to call is 706-863-5800. We're going to say a few words about the alternative fuels on there. And there's a lot of benefits to alternative fuels. And, of course, now this is my opinion, and Joe, I'm going to ask you yours. My opinion is one of the main things is a renewable resource, and it gives a lot of countries the opportunity to be energy independent.
Does, because not everybody has the fossil fuels available in their countries, and you end up importing them and doing all that. And really, the emissions footprint too of it, if it's a renewable resource, whether it be hydrogen or a lot of the other ones that we're looking into and that are available now. There's just a lot of different options available, really.
Well, and actually, most of the alternative fuels that we talk about and we'll be talking about during the show, they have lower vehicle emissions and they can contribute less to the smog, less to the air pollution, less to the global warming. So they, and of course, again, the biggest factor is renewable. Now, there are some controversy there. For instance, one of the things that makes it renewable is corn, or certain foods can be used to make ethanol, for instance. All right, now what that does is it makes the price of food, because if a person or a farmer can make more money selling this as ethanol, that farmer is not as prone to sell that as fuel. So there's some controversy in there. So there needs to be some regulations and handled correctly.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Now we don't have time to go to an email right now, so we will go ahead and mention one of the items that we do want to mention would be, we're going to mention some things to do with saving fuel also as we go, and that fits hand in hand with alternative fuel. And did you know that when you drive a car that's been parked for just a few hours, the engine is cold, it uses a lot more fuel than the first 5 miles or so than it would otherwise. And of course, that's goes hand in hand with making sure that if you got some trips you can combine all in one, you're a lot better off.
Absolutely. Keep it running. Keep it going.
Yeah.
Make one trip out for the day instead of several from the house.
Yeah, because not only will that lower the emissions that your cars create, because the cars create a lot more emissions now. Cars now do better than ever before. They heat up faster. The thermostat regulates the temperature of the engine a lot better than it's ever done before. The emission system starts working faster, mainly to do with better O2 sensors, oxygen sensors, and heated oxygen sensors. But you still, during that first crank up, will use more fuel and emit more emissions than any other time.
You said something about that, and a lot of the new cars use the grill shutters now to even prevent air from getting to the radiator on cold start. They just try to get it to operating temperature absolutely as fast as possible.
Yeah, and regulate it really
Absolutely.
nice. Okay, Joe, it's time to take a real quick break, and when we return, we'll be going to answer more automotive questions and sharing more tips. Oh, and I tell you what, we will bring back a tailgate talk and a tailgate tip as soon as we return.
Sounds good.
Welcome back to the C&C Auto Show, and we are having a few little small computer malfunctions here, but we got it. Give us a song there, John, and let's do this thing the right way. Okay, still computer issues. Okay, we're back with you on the C&C Auto Show, and if you have a question about your car, truck, or SUV, you give us a call. That number is 706-863-5800. That's 8:05 to 10 Eastern Time. And again, 706-863-5800. You can also watch the show at ccautoshow.com. And we have a tech tip quiz we're going to lay on the table. And and shortly after that, we will also have a tailgate talk. Okay, this is a tech tip quiz that may have to do with some unusual stuff. And I got a feeling somebody may get it reasonably fast, but let's see what happens. Chester drove a vehicle that did not go very fast, but he did not have to refuel it for over 20 years. What type vehicle did Chester drive? And if you know the answer to the Tech Tip quiz, you give us a call. And we are now ready for a tailgate talk. And do you have a tailgate talk for us, Dominic?
I do. I just wanted to make sure that all of my equipment was working on my end.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Ford is working on a Mustang-inspired electric SUV. It is going to be called the Mach 1. They released a teaser photo of it this past week. And it's being worked on by Ford's Edison Group. They are planning to potentially have it on the market by 2020.
Mm. So that is our tailgate talk.
That's it.
All right, fantastic. And we have a tailgate talk, and we will now go we'll have some calls coming up. And the number to call, 706-863-5800. If you have a question about your car, truck, or SUV, you give us a call. Okay, now one of the things that, as we're talking about alternative fuel, that comes to mind, and I think about a lot of times, has to do with natural gas. And that was used real heavily for a long time. And the U.S. has a lot of natural gas.
Yeah, Ford was real big into that market. I know we've serviced some the local gas providers' vehicles, and they run the natural gas vehicles. It's quite common almost.
Yeah, and the gas, it really burns very clean, and it's already widely available in many countries through the utilities that provide the natural gas to their homes. And some of the positive things about it is cars and trucks with specially designed engines produce the fewer emissions than regular gas or diesel engines. Some of the negative sides is natural gas production creates methane, and that's a greenhouse gas, and that's 21 times worse for global warming than CO2. So there's some upsides and downsides to natural gas also. Each one of them has little issues. Now, there's also we also want to give a tip having to do with the gas saving thing, like we had talked about. And one of the things that you see, Joe, do you sometimes see a vehicle that has had a luggage rack?
Oh, you see them going to the
With
beach all the time or something like
Yeah.
that on the roof.
Well,
Big old
sometimes,
turtle tops or whatever they call them.
yeah, and sometimes people just leave them on longer than they should. They'll go to the beach, and a long time later they'll still have the item there, or even sometimes it might be just a roof rack in some cases. But a lot of vehicles now they're building them to where that's removable. Much easier than ever before. Not only just even roof racks, because they found that creates a fair amount of drag that you have on a vehicle. So removing unnecessary items from around the vehicle, things that create drag, is very important.
Yeah, that is. I mean,
And another thing that can be real big is is making sure that, like going down the road, once you get up to highway speed, keeping the windows rolled up. I mean, because that's where you create your better aerodynamics.
it does. It cuts down on drag by a good bit.
It does. All of those are very, very important things to do. Now, one of the things that come to mind when we're talking about alternative fuels, you can't help but think of hybrids.
You know, that's the one we see the most of in this market, really, you know, with the Priuses. I mean, we work on those as many as any other cars, it seems like these days. There's so many of them.
Well, I've been driving a Prius for probably 2 or 3 years now.
You've been cheating on your Miata, hadn't you?
Yeah, I have been, but I very much enjoy driving the Prius. It does not have the takeoff power that I normally like to see. But as far as once initial takeoff is over, you're pretty much have as much power as you would want in any other vehicle, and the fuel mileage and just the longevity of the vehicle is just amazing.
Well, you never even put brakes on those.
Yeah, the
Regenerative
brakes last a
braking,
long
because
time.
they recharge the batteries when you're stopping.
Mhm.
I mean, you hardly ever put traditional brakes on them. They last forever.
Yeah, and it's a very good driving vehicle, very smooth, and you can barely feel it when the gas engine jumps in.
You know,
And I've just very much enjoyed that car.
that's good. I'm a little worried about this tech tip quiz, Aaron, because I knew the answer to it
Uh-huh.
without cheating.
Well, that is true. I
It
mean,
is
and-
true.
yeah,
I'm
and-
worried that we hadn't got a call about that yet.
Yeah, so we'll get an answer to the tech tip quiz.
know.
I'll tell you what, we'll read the question one more time. Chester drove a vehicle that did not go very fast, but he did not have to refuel it, but every 20 years. What type vehicle did Chester drive? And if you know the answer to that, give us a call. And again, that number is 706-863-5800. And we will set you up on stage, and you can answer the phone. Okay, are we ready to go to the calls?
I think so, Aaron.
All right, where are we going?
We got Eddie here. He's got a question about a 2012 Honda Civic.
Eddie, welcome to the C&C Auto Show, and what can we help you with today?
Well, this is concerning my daughter's car.
Mhm.
She is trying to find a reputable shop to do her oil changes. She does not trust these places that, I ain't going to mention no names, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But I was wondering what C&C charges for a oil change on that car with synthetic
Uh-huh.
oil.
Yeah, full synthetic oil change. And that is a good question. And I'll be glad to tell you what we charge. And also I'll be glad to tell you some items that she would want to look at. Because if she is anything like my daughter, it's absolutely fine to give her as much information as you can, but I don't try to make up her mind. I give her the information, and she's the one who's going to decide what she wants to do, and it
Well,
just goes much better.
That's the reason I was told I'd call you, because y'all have done some oil changes for me, and y'all pointed out a couple of things that I needed to fix on my truck.
Mm-hmm.
I did, but
Exactly.
I figured y'all would be honest and reputable about it. So.
Well, thank you. First, I'll mention the pricing on the oil changes is a semi-synthetic oil change, semi-synthetic blend. Now, this includes changing the oil to oil filter, lubing the chassis. It includes topping off all the fluid levels, adjusting tire pressure, and a 28-point courtesy inspection. That runs $34.95 on a semi-synthetic, runs $64.95 on a full synthetic oil change. That varies on some cars. Of course, some European designs have very expensive oil filters, and some vehicles take a lot more oil. On a Civic, that's going to be that price is pretty much accurate on there. So that's the price of the oil change. Now, as she looks for a shop, and this is good for other places that might be listening to the show that may not be in this area. But some of the best things to do, an oil change is a great way to get to know a shop, to find out if you communicate with them. And what I recommend doing is first ask friends, say, where do you take your vehicle? And that's friends with similar cars that she might have. And then the next step would be to call the shops if they're sort of responsive when you call on the phone, or if it sounds like somebody's in the back there working on a car and answering the phone at the same time. That might not be a good fit. Find out if you communicate well and they seem nice, and if they do, visit their website and look at the reviews and see the type of reviews they have, if other people's been happy. And then once you do that, you may go visit the shop, and just whether you're waiting or leaving, look around the shop a little bit. Find out if it looks like that they've looked like it's clean, because if they take care of their equipment, they'll probably take care of your equipment. So do that, and then find out if they communicate. And in most shops, a good shop, during an oil change, they will inspect the vehicle and let you know items that are either due now or coming up, usually a priority safety list. Safety first, dependability next, and then cosmetic would be third. Make sure all that, and they would give you a list, but there shouldn't be any pressure involved. It should say, would you like this? Matter of fact, if people hear us, we normally like to, if they come in for an oil change, finish the oil change, have the car sitting there, unless we see a safety item, and say, your car's ready, but these are some items there that you may consider. And then that way you don't want any pressure involved. And that's the steps that I would normally recommend.
Okay. Well, I know the owner's manual states synthetic is, and I think that's what's been gone in it in the past. Mm-hmm. But the semi-synthetic, is that by the book saying synthetic?
If it calls for full synthetic, I would recommend full synthetic.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
I believe that car would be the 0W20 on that one.
Yeah, 0W20.
That is correct on that.
Yeah, and that's made only in full synthetic that I know of.
As far as I know, too. I've never seen it in a semi-synthetic.
But
okay,
yes.
Okay, well, that's the information I need. I'll relay that to her, and hope that she'll get back with you.
Oh, and on that vehicle, she'll be fine to do oil changes every 5,000 miles as opposed to 3, like traditionally. Okay.
Okay, all right. That sounds good, Aaron. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you. Great call. We're going to take a real quick break. We'll be right back after, and we'll be going to Jimmy and some others right after we return.
I've been driving all night, my hands wet on the wheel. There's a voice in my head that drives my heel.
And we welcome you back to the C&C Auto Show. We are having issues with our button. But that song was played in honor of Burt Reynolds. We lost Burt Reynolds earlier this week, or during this week. He lived a fantastic life. And he did so many things, and one of the many things that he did was made the black Trans Am a very special vehicle.
Also made everybody in the world want one.
Yeah, he did, and we have brought a few of those back over the years that people have brought in, and just a wonderful actor, wonderful person, and we'll miss Burt Reynolds very much. Okay,
I think we've got Jimmy wants to answer the tech tip quiz. You
let's
want
go
to bring him
talk
in?
to Jimmy.
Jimmy.
Hey,
Hello.
hey, Jimmy,
Hello.
welcome to the show. What can we help with?
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I was listening to those conversations after you announced the question, and I think he had an electric car. And
Well,
he
hold
had a
on one
triple
second,
battery.
Jimmy.
We got to set you up on stage.
Yeah, you
here.
got to get on stage before you can answer. Hold on one second. Because, see, we can't legally give you the foghorn unless you have been on stage first. And see, Joe, before he could do this, we had to get top secret clearance on him because he had to know the answer to this tech tip quiz. And so he got his clearance right at the last minute. Last night, it was about midnight. They sent it back and said he's cleared. But because if he wouldn't have been able to do the tech tip quiz.
It comes in one of those briefcases like the security launch codes.
Yeah,
for
it
the
does. It's
military.
pretty intense. Okay, Jimmy, what is the answer to our tech tip quiz today?
I think he was driving an electric car.
An electric car.
Yes, sir.
Mm.
Oh, man.
Jimmy, the only
And
thing
it's,
is I've never seen an electric car. Now, if there is one, I want to buy it. But did it go 20 years without having to get a recharge or a refuel? That would be a neat electric car.
I thought you were saying, the refuel was changing his battery out. He had a super.
No, this thing went 20 years. It'll go 20 years without having to refuel.
Recharge, refuel, anything.
I want one of them.
I do.
All right.
Okay.
Jimmy, I'm sorry to do this to you, and I'm not going to do it. I'm going to let Joe do it. Joe, would you? Oh, Jimmy. Oh,
I'm
man.
going to give
That's
that the foghorn twice.
He didn't hear it the first time, apparently.
Yeah, I didn't hear it, Jimmy. I'm sorry that you had to go through that two times.
That second one was for Aaron for trying to give you two
everybody got
foghorns.
across the board.
That's right.
Jimmy, thank you for the
Thank you,
call.
Jimmy.
Okay, the number to call is 706-863-5800. Joe, who will we be talking to?
We got Fred. He's got a question about his Chevrolet pickup.
Hello, Fred. What is
Hello,
your
Fred.
06 pickup doing?
Well, it's not mine. It's my neighbor's, but I'm trying to help him fix it.
Oh, we've heard that before, Fred.
What's that?
We've heard that one before. My friend has a.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, anyway, I have a code,
Uh-huh.
with a check engine light.
Yep.
And I think I understand it right, but I want you to help me out if you could.
Mhm.
It's P0053, and I think what it's saying is the heater in the oxygen sensor is not working.
Mm-hmm.
Am I reading that right?
You are. That sounds
Okay.
correct to me. And I can tell you now, I'm not sure if Joe will agree with me on this, but more often than not, on that particular type vehicle, I think it turns out to be the O2 sensor itself.
A lot of times, the heaters just have a little element in there, and the element goes bad, and the computer sees that it has an open resistance.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
fairly common. You
On
can check
certain
it.
cars, like certain Chryslers, they go bad, but many times the computer has to be reprogrammed on certain model Chryslers along with that. But of course, if you were going to say, I'm going to put this on there without running a chart, which a chart says check voltage here, do this, do that, check ohms reading here, all kind of other stuff. If you were not going to run a chart and you were going to guess it apart on that one, I would say O2 sensor, and they fall into the medium range. I don't like to put parts on that somebody's going to spend a lot of money and take a chance on wasting it. But I will tell you the odds are in your favor on that part, Fred.
Bank 1? Is that the driver's side?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, does it say bank 1 sensor 1 or bank 1 sensor 2?
Oh. I didn't write that part down. I'm going to have to.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
important to
vehicle does
know.
have 4 of them.
Yeah, you do have 4 sensors. You have a bank 1 sensor 1, bank 2 sensor 1, bank 2 sensor 1, and bank 2 sensor 2. And it's important to know which one, because if you don't, you're going to spend a couple of $100 and put the wrong one on, and then your neighbor, your neighbor will come over with a broomstick and be all over you, Fred, and you don't want that to happen.
No, okay. So now, do you know? Do you think they're the same? The one in front of the cat, that. What the one in back is just for efficiency, right?
Well, that's what the designation of Bank One Sensor One. But yes, if it is one after the catalytic converter, that is a downflow sensor, and it does not contribute to the running of the engine, but it will cause the check engine light to come on and will set the light. Yours is probably going to be an upstream more than likely.
Yeah, it just depends on what the
Okay.
code was. And it should be in the description of the code, whether it be the bank 1 or bank 2. And obviously the sensor 1 is before the converter. The sensor 2 would be after the converter. But it should be in the description of the code for you.
There's one other code there, too, and that one says P0030, and I didn't understand what that was.
It should be random misfire, wouldn't it?
Or 0030. That would be, you're thinking of 300 code.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Off the top of my head, I actually don't know what that code is.
Hey, I tell you what, when we go on break, we will research that code. Can we write that down?
0033 is what you said, wasn't
He's
it?
got that thing stored in his mind, Fred. And during a break, we will do that. And then when we come back during next hour, that will make it where you'll be sure to listen, and we will let you know for sure what that is.
0030 is what he said. I got it wrong, Aaron.
P0030.
We got you. We'll look it up.
Okay, we got it, Fred.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Number to call, 706-863-5800. We only have about a minute and 50 seconds, but
We got
let's
time
go
for
out
Barry.
on a limb. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's
I'm
do
ready.
it. Hey, Barry, welcome to the C&C Auto Show. And what can we help you with?
Hello, I got an answer for the.
Okay, you're going on stage immediately. You're being ushered up there. The time you walk in the building, they're getting you right on the stage. Okay, now, Barry, all eyes are on you to right at the end and give a grand finale to the show to answer our tech tip quiz.
Either a nuclear-powered submarine or battleship or something like that.
Oh, let me think
Oh,
about
man,
this
hold on
just
a
a little bit.
Wait for the silence.
Wait for it. Wait for it. Whoa, what an ending to a show, Barry. You are a winner. You are a Tech Tip Quiz winner. And you are right. It was Chester was the admiral on a Nimitz-class aircraft carrier. Instead of the gas turbines or like a diesel electric system it used for propulsion, like they do on many warships, these carriers used two A4W pressurized water reactors, which drive 4 propeller shafts that can produce a maximum speed of 30 knots. As a result of the use of nuclear power, the ships are capable of operating for over 20 years, and they say they could go to 50 if they wanted to, without refueling, and are predicted to have a service life of over 50 years. And man, this is huge. I really want to get one of those A4Ws for my Mazda. I think
We ought to make every radio show. It's like a star on this radio show.
Yeah, it is.
If any of y'all are friends with Aaron on Facebook, you've seen his pictures posing with me.
Got to run. We're out of time, and we'll be back. And hello, all of you wonderful car lovers out there, and welcome to the C&C Auto Show. And I am Aaron Clements.
And I am not John Ryan Mooney for the second time today.
Yes, John Ryan took a well-deserved vacation. He's going to be off this week and next week, and something he very rarely does. And I'm so proud of him being able to do that and take some time and enjoy himself. And we have here with us Joe Deloach, which Joe, I mentioned before that one wonderful thing about my job is I get to work with some of the best technicians in the world, in my opinion. They are just absolutely fantastic. Joe has been through the Augusta Technology, and he was actually an instructor out there at Augusta Technology School at one time, and does a wonderful job. Co-manager at Shop 3, just does a lot of wonderful things.
Glad to be here.
Well, Joe, we appreciate you being here. Appreciate you jumping on board and helping to answer some of these phone calls that we have here. And our goal is to give information that'll make cars, truck, or SUV safer, to make it more dependable, and to make it last longer for less money. And we appreciate everyone that's logged in and tuned in, and we appreciate you jumping with us on board and riding with us on the C&C Auto Show. We're here to take those phone calls. That's Saturday mornings, 8:05 to 10 Eastern Time, and that number is 706-863-5800. Now, if you'd rather watch the show, you can do that by going to ccautoshow.com. You can watch it live. You can email your question in, and you can also watch past shows, learn more about your car. A lot of great things there at ccautoshow.com. And I do always like to mention that this show is brought to you in part by Napa Heating and Cooling Systems and NGK Spark Plugs. And we have a lot of wonderful things. Of course, answering questions is the main thing we like to do. But as we're doing that, we'll also be talking about alternative fuels during the show, and we'll cover some tips on saving fuel, saving gas as you go.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
But we need to do the thing that we enjoy doing the most first, and that would be what?
Answering people's questions.
Yeah, talking to Ron.
That's Ron.
Okay, Ron, welcome to the show, and what can we help you with?
Thank you, fellas. Look, I go to Walmart now. In the automotive section, they have a big display of refrigerant cans. Is it feasible, or is it within the capacity of an average person to charge their system?
Ron, I don't lean in that direction a lot, because now a long time ago, vehicles used to have a little sight glass, and if there was bubbles in that little sight glass, I'm not even sure if Joe would remember this or not, but this is the way AC work used to be. You could actually get pretty accurate refill by adding refrigerant and adding just enough until the little bubbles went away, and when they were gone, you'd have the right amount. And the systems would hold about 3.5, 4 pounds of refrigerant, and that was R12 at the time. And if you were up or down a little bit, it didn't matter. But now there's no sight glass there, and the systems only hold sometimes 1.5, 2 pounds.
I'm even less than a pound.
Yeah, and some of them less than a pound. And if you go just a hair over or a hair under, you can either burn up a compressor or cause a lack of lubrication in the system. And so, to me, it's very difficult for someone to install that. Now, and I'm going to mention the thing I'm mainly big time against. That kind that they sell that they said causes or stops the leak.
What is it? Yeah.
Ron, what happens is that stuff not only stops that, but it stops everything else up, including our machine. I mean, it goes. If that stuff gets in our machine, it costs thousands of dollars to get it cleaned out of our machine. So if we see a car that stuff may have been put in, all we can say is, I'm sorry, we can't do anything, because we can't take a chance on contamination inside our AC machine. So I would say I'm not a strong believer in it. If somebody gets lucky and their system might only be a half a pound low, and they put it a little in and it helps, they may come out okay on it, but more often than not, it can cause damage.
What are those cans, Aaron? How many pounds is involved in it?
Well, usually those little cans hold a pound each.
Some are 12 ounces. Yeah, 12 ounces or 1 pound.
Yeah, somewhere around in there. But what a professional shop does is they'll hook an AC machine up to the car, and then first they'll look at the pressures and see what the pressures are. And then once they get to the point to where they want to know how much was in the system, they push a button and it sucks out what's in there, and it weighs it as it comes out. So if 0.9 come out of the system and the system holds 1.5, then they know it was low and that car could use an evacuate and recharge, and it'd be a good setup. But if they pulled 1.5 out and the system don't hold but 1.5, they know that chances are it's not going to, the recharge is not going to help them any. So it's that critical.
There's not a leak.
Exactly, not a leak on there. But if they pulled it out, if they checked it and it was totally empty, then in most cases we would recommend having a leak check run as opposed to trying to put it in. But if you've got a vehicle, and let's say you got a 4 or 5 year old vehicle, and correct me if I'm wrong here, this is the way you look at it, Joe. If you got a 4 or 5 year old vehicle and the system's about a half pound
Quarter-pound,
pound
half-pound,
load.
yeah, just a little bit.
AC system's a little bit like a tire. You have permeation through hoses, you have seals. You're going to lose a little bit. So instead of selling that person a leak check, I might just if they say no, I hadn't had to add any refrigerant in 2 years. Most of the time, we'll just sell them a service and put the right amount of refrigerant oil back in, put a vacuum on the system to pull any moisture out for about 20 or 30 minutes, and then put the exact amount back in. And they'll probably go another 2 or 3 years before they need one.
One of the things we always do with that, too, is add a small amount of dye, too. So if it does have a catastrophic leak, we'll be able to hopefully identify it quickly.
Great point. That is true.
There you go. Well, tell me, fellas, look, I don't. Today was tomorrow, Grandparents' Day. I wish all the grandparents out there happy Grandparents' Day.
Yeah.
And then Wednesday comes National Encouragement Day.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to encourage all the drivers out there. One thing is to be have some kind of compassion when you're driving, because there's a lot of grandparents on the road, and we don't drive so fast no more, and we're not as quick in our maneuvering. So have a little compassion for the older drivers on the road, and just be careful.
That all boils down to just leave a little bit earlier. So many times people leave in a hurry and you're in too much of a rush.
Exactly.
Especially with the school time. If you just wait and go just a little bit earlier and allow yourself a little lead time for things that may not go just right, it's not an emergency then. So I agree with you, Ron, and I'll encourage everyone to do the same.
Y'all have a great weekend and make her safe.
Thank you, Ron. Okay, during the last segment, we promised a gentleman that we would find out what the code was that he had, and Joe, you looked it up. What was it?
Both of the codes were basically essentially a heater problem with the Bank 1 Sensor 1 oxygen sensor, and that is going to be on the passenger side of the vehicle. Bank 1 is always located where the number 1 cylinder is, so it sounds like you do have a problem with that sensor is what more than likely is going to be the case.
Yeah, so high probability. Now, of course, there's always a chance it could be other things. And, of course, we know that when you're replacing oxygen sensors, you need to have a special socket in many cases. Sometimes you can use an open-end wrench. Well, I guess you could if you run the wire through the thing, you could use the boxed in. But change it. Be sure to put a little anti-seize compound on the threads when you're putting a new one back in. And if it don't already have that on there. And so just a few little tips on that. And it is time to take a real quick break. When we return, we'll be answering more automotive questions, and we will also be giving some more tips on saving fuel. And along with that, we'll be sharing or talking a little bit more about alternate energy or alternate fuels. All great stuff. Okay, that and a lot more as soon as we return with the C&C Auto Show. And we do want to welcome you back to the C&C Auto Show. And this segment is brought to you by Napa Heating and Cooling Systems. We trust Napa Heating and Cooling System products, and you should trust them also. Great products, great fit, lasts a long time, and you just don't have any problems. You get a Napa belt or a hose that fits, and boom, you put it on, and it runs and runs and runs.
Back on the road again.
Yeah, and technicians love to use them because they fit. You don't have to do all this moving around and adapting or any of that. They're built
to fit.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, the number to call to join the show is 706-863-5800. That's Saturday mornings, 8:05 to 10 Eastern Time. You can also email a question in at ccautoshow.com. Just go to that website, and it'll have a little button you can push, and it'll say you can email or whatever you want to do. Now, it's not so much of a problem when you're riding down the road and you're driving in town, but when you're out of town or on the interstate and moving more quickly, the shape of your car is very important. So car designers, of course, it's aerodynamics, and it takes a lot less effort for the engine to go through the air with less drag on the car. So doing things like even down to keeping the vehicle clean can help some with the fuel mileage, but also keeping your windows rolled up as you're going down the highway at certain speeds. That saves fuel. Also, if you have unnecessary weight in the car, you want to get that out. There's no need if it's the middle of the winter, you know you're not going to be playing golf for a while. So take that 50 pounds of clubs out of the trunk.
That's also a good incentive to stick to your New Year's resolution of weight loss.
Yeah, exactly. All of those together can save fuel. So it's a good thing to do that, and that can definitely get you a lot better fuel mileage. Okay, we do have a tech tip quiz that we will be reading real quick. And of course, the answer will win a prize package. Prize package includes a hat or a coffee mug. Also includes an I Answered the Tech Tip Quiz golf shirt. And here is the quiz. Josiah could not get his car to move. He tried everything. He paid an automobile technician $50 for a card, and the card made it to where his car would move. What kind of card was it? And I'm going to mention this is Joe is the sitting guest on the show today, and we will be making him eligible to win the Tech Tip Quiz. He does not know the answer to this one. So,
But I'm going to have to leave it up to you guys. I'm lost on this one. And
Yeah.
I am an automotive technician, and I don't know the answer.
So he is eligible to win. And the reason I did that, so he would have the opportunity to actually win a Tech Tip Quiz golf shirt. And again, not that many people have those, and those that do, you very seldom see one on eBay.
No, yeah, coveted.
Yeah, very, very rare. Okay, if you have a question about your car, truck, or SUV, you give us a call. If you have an answer to our Tech Tip Quiz, give us a call. And we are going to be talking about the different things that has to do with saving fuel and also alternative fuels that we have in there. Okay, now one of the ones that is when you're thinking about alternative fuels, you think about hydrogen. It can be mixed with actually natural gas to create an alternative fuel for vehicles that use certain types of internal combustion engines. And hydrogen is also used in fuel cell type vehicles, and they run on electricity, and they're produced by the photochemical reaction that occurs when the hydrogen and the oxygen are combined in the fuel. One of the biggest issues with hydrogen, in my opinion, is the infrastructure. We just don't have the infrastructure in the U.S. To make hydrogen feasible. And of course, right now, if you had a vehicle that run on hydrogen, you would, as far as I know, possibly somewhere, there's very few stations, in other words, that you could actually get a fill up.
Yeah, the EPA actually has a website that you can actually locate alternative fuel filling stations. I didn't know that until I researched this last night to be ready for the show today.
Yeah, well, I have looked at that site, but the tricky part is they are very far apart. There is not that many.
Pushing it to a fuel station.
Yeah, and if anybody's ever been low on fuel, it would be a little frightening to look down and see your gas gauge on E and see the nearest station is 300 miles. So it's right now the hydrogen has not been because of mostly the infrastructure. Another alternative fuel though that I think a lot of people were very excited about for a lot of years, and then it kind of cooled down just a little bit, is biodiesel.
French fry fuel.
Exactly. We did actually have customers that they were coming in, and they were very interested in trying to make their vehicle be able to run. Some of them had restaurants, and they said they can use their cooking oil to do that. And it is possible to do it even in a limited space. There's certain procedures that you can go through, but the biggest thing is getting it as clean as it needs to be.
There's a lot of filtration involved, and it is quite a process, actually.
Yeah, and with that, I think a lot of times when people found out what all was involved in trying to convert that vehicle into the biodiesel and the time that would be involved on a regular basis, there was some that still did it, but it never did gain momentum.
It was the rage for a while.
Yeah, it was. It was there. Okay, are we ready to go to the calls?
I think so. We got Patricia. She wants to try to answer the tech tip quiz.
Let's do it. Hey, Patricia, welcome to the C&C Auto Show, and what can we help you with?
Well, you were talking about gas, and if my car wouldn't crank, I'd like to have a gas card.
So the technician gave.
Aaron, we didn't do the trumpet.
Oh, hold on, Patricia. We have to get you on stage. Patricia, you did that quickly before we put you on stage, thinking that you could get by without getting a foghorn if you didn't answer it, right? But that won't work. So now so she paid the technician, or he paid the technician $50 for a gas card, and I take it probably even went and got gas. You know, that was not a bad try, really wasn't. That Patricia, that was pretty close, and if it was up to me, I wouldn't do this, but Joe did it. It wasn't me.
Oh, that's not fair.
No, it wasn't. It was, to me, it was way off base.
I'd guess too, but I'd have to foghorn myself, so I'm just going to save the agony.
Yeah, and
But
Joe.
This was a fuel show. You know that.
That would have tied in together. But you know what happened? The reason Joe does not know the answer, he got the classified rating for hour one, but he did not get the first class clearance.
Nope, my security clearance isn't valid anymore.
Yeah, he didn't get it for the second hour, so he don't really know the answer. But that's good in a lot of ways because that makes him eligible to win the golf shirt also.
Okay.
Hey, Patricia, I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to make it to where our producer, Dominic Frito, he is also eligible. So these two in the room are also eligible to win this Tech Tip quiz and take a chance on winning our prize package.
So does that mean they'll share?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So tell them if they win, they'll share.
That's
Will
right.
do.
We'll keep you down, Patricia.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Oh, wow. Look at I did it again. I went over on break time. Hey, we're going to take a real quick break. We'll be right back after this.
Eastbound and down, loaded up.
And we are back with you with the C&C Auto Show. We did want to bring you back one more time with Eastbound and Down. And, of course, that song is very much remembered by the Burt Reynolds movie, Smokey and the Bandit. And Burt Reynolds passed away earlier.
Just want to go to Texarkana, Texas, and get some Coors beer.
Yeah, get some Coors beer. And Burt Reynolds, wonderful actor, just lived a wonderful life, and he passed away earlier this week. Made the black Trans Am a very famous car. Automotive people love him everywhere because he did that. So many wonderful scenes in that show.
Indeed.
With driving in cars. Okay. We are back with you, and we have a tech tip quiz laid on the table. We have some questions. We'll be sharing more tips, but we want to do the thing that we like to do best, and that is
talk to Paul.
I like that. Hey, Paul, welcome to the C&C Auto Show, and what can we help you with?
Well, my son and I are going today to look at purchasing a used car.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 2010 Chevrolet HHR.
Mm-hmm.
It has a little over 90,000 miles on it. And I was wondering if there's anything you could tell me to look for that might be a problem with that car.
Uh-huh.
Or any help would be appreciated.
Paul, I tell you what, I will give you my rundown of the things that I do. Every technician has their own little things that they like to do. And I'm going to be telling you my personal files of the things that I do. So I'm just going to throw it all out on the table. Now, I'm going to start with something that my friend told me on this show a while back. Now, I just added this to my list recently. But to me, it was one of the best things that I could ever imagine is buying a car. My friend Philip Hawkins Motor Company, he said right here on this show, he said, Aaron, one of the first things I like to do is when I open the driver's door, see if it smiles at me. Yeah. And if it smiles at you, that's a good sign because sometimes you can have that. Okay, so everything else will be the things that I normally do. What I like to do after that is before I drive the car, I always like to, of course, check the fluid levels under the hood, check the water, the oil, look at the belts and hoses, do a little glance around, see if I see anything out of place. Then, of course, I move around, look at the tires. Now, this is all even before I drive it. Look at the tires. And the color of each fluid can tell you a lot. If you got engine oil that looks like it's like syrup and real dark and gunky, chances are that car hadn't had regular oil changes, and there's some issues there. If the transmission fluid's got a burnt smell to it, chances are you got some transmission fluid that may have some, or a transmission that may have an issue. At the very minimum, needs a transmission flush. So look at the color, the texture, and the smell, and smell the fluid. Look at the tires, check for the age of the tires, dry rotting, different things like that, unusual wearing inside, outside. As you do that, move on around, look for any cosmetic damage on the car. And Paul, am I giving you way more than you wanted to hear?
Oh, no.
Okay.
I mean, I'm very familiar with cars, and I have
Good.
bought tons of them in the past.
Well, I'm going to move to
If there was anything specific about this particular model that I should be.
Well, I'm going to just move to a little bit more so other people know. Is after that, I try to look in different places that cannot be cleaned to make sure it's not any kind of flood car. Look in the trunk area at spare tire and wheels. Kind of look under the dash, under the seats, just to make sure it's not a flood car if you got all that. Now, as far as the HHR having a particular type item,
don't see a whole lot of problems with those, really. They got the little Ecotech 4-cylinder they put in the Cavaliers and the Cobalts. Don't really do a lot to those other than maintenance. They have a water pump failure that's usually, I would say, the 150,000 mile range, and it is a little bit more of an intensive job because it is a time and chain driven one. But other than that, they really don't have a lot of problems.
And I really can't think of too many recalls or bulletins that those have had. Now, they may have some. So one of the things that it's not a bad idea to glance on YouTube and just look at that particular car and see if you see any other items that we might have done. But that's one of the few cars I can't really think of anything right off the bat.
Paul, I think it's a good time to mention, too, that we do offer a pre-purchase inspection, and I can't think of the thousands of dollars that we've been able to save our customers over the years for that.
Yeah. So, and that is definitely something to consider as a pre-purchase inspection. But if you know a good bit about cars also, Paul, you may not necessarily need that. That's for if someone does not have the method of like looking at the brakes, looking at the front end, things like that. But I would say if you do those first items that I talked about, and then as you're driving it, make sure all the items work and the vehicle drives good. And if you can, get some maintenance history on it, if you have any of that information. If you do that, I feel like you're covering all your bases. And you calling the show shows that you have more than likely covered a huge amount of the bases that needs to be run. I wish I was doing what you did when I bought a boat one time. I didn't. I got in a hurry. It looked good, Paul.
I seem to remember putting an engine in that boat too.
Yeah, Paul, it wasn't pretty, and I was embarrassed because you see a boat and it looks good, and you want a boat. So I didn't do what you're doing as closely as I should have, and I do it for other people all the time. But
well, I know 7 months ago I bought a 06 Frontier, and I called y'all to get some recommendations, and of course you said if the radiator had not been replaced, to replace it. So of course I did that, because then you told me about the antifreeze getting into the transmission and stuff like that. So that's the reason I'm calling you. I figured if y'all had found out anything on it that I need to specifically look for, then I would do that today before we go up there to look at the car.
Paul, I think you're ready to go, and I'm gonna wish you very happy shopping. I know that's a big step, but when we're talking about it in general, and that it's not a big thing, but to you and him, it is a big thing. It's kind of neat. And
he had a 07 Honda Civic, and the block ventilated itself.
Yeah.
I think there's a recall on that.
Yeah, Paul, I hate to mention this to you, but that's unusual. But I think they did almost like a lifetime recall on that thing, to where they'll fix them.
Oh, okay.
Did you know that? Is the crack near the front of the engine? Right near the front of the engine?
It's just framed, just like it's got a thrown rod.
Oh, okay. No, that would not be covered, Paul.
There was one for a coolant leak that would seep through the block. So
yeah, there was one that cracked.
No, this is not. This is a loud noise.
You talking about a monster that wanted to get out of the engine?
It was knocking and it came on out.
Okay.
But But one more thing, I'll let you go because I know you got a bunch of people. I had planned on bringing a jack and some jack stands and jack up the front of it and get up underneath it and just check for any oil leaks and stuff like that. Would you recommend doing that?
Yeah, I would recommend that. Or if there's a place nearby where you're looking at it, a shop, just to say, hey, what would it run? A lot of places for $19 will run it up in the air for you and let you look all up underneath it, and do a little bit of the inspection. So I would do one of the two, yeah, because it gives you a chance to look at it.
Well, listen, Aaron, I appreciate it. I listen to y'all's show every Saturday, and I've gotten a lot of good tips from y'all, and I appreciate y'all doing it.
Well, we thank you very much, and good luck with the car hunting or the car buying.
Okay, thank you. We got to find him something because he ain't got no car right now.
Yeah, well, enjoy the moment of that.
All right. I appreciate it, Aaron. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you, and you too. Number to call, 706-863-5800. Let's go to the next caller.
Ron got a question.
Hello, Ron. Welcome to the show. What can we help with?
Hi, guys. Aaron, I think you can relate to this, but it may be more for Joe since he taught automotive tech.
Yeah.
What can we do to get younger kids involved in this field? I am particularly more interested in older custom cars that are well built. There's a lot of satisfaction, but it's also a lot of hard work. The techs that amaze me the most are the metal fabricators, where they don't use buckets of Bondo to repair rust.
Yeah.
They actually cut metal out and form it and weld it in place like it should be. But what can we do to get them involved more? I don't know. Do we have automotive tech schools in Augusta anymore?
We do. We actually have Augusta Tech has an automotive school, and they actually teach automotive, I believe, at 3 campuses. Do they teach it in Grovetown?
They do teach it in Grovetown also.
Yeah, so they have it. They teach it in Waynesboro and the main campus off Deans Ridge Road, and I think in Grovetown. Yeah,
in the high school,
the high school levels have it
Tim
too.
Lewis has
in Harlem, and West Side has that
there.
program.
So yeah, they have it, and they do need more candidates to come in, good people to come in and want it, and a lot of it. What's happening so many times is our system, our education system is set up so much to trying to saying that every person out there needs to go to college and do this. Some people would much rather have a trade like the automotive field, which I have spent my life in and I absolutely love. I couldn't imagine myself doing anything else. But you don't have enough people given the opportunity to do that as you used to. And of course, the funding, they cut a tremendous amount of funding to a lot of the automotive schools, and we need to change that. Hey, Ron, we out of time,
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for your answer.
Great question, Ron. We appreciate it. Going to take a break. We'll be right back after this.
She's real fine, my 409. She's real fine, my 409, my 409.
And we are back with you with the C&C Auto Show. The team at NGK Spark Plugs wants to remind you that proper spark plug torque is very important. If a spark plug's over or under torque, it could damage the threads or the spark plug. For more information on spark plug replacement, you can go to YouTube and then search NGK Spark Plugs. They got a lot of really neat videos that you can watch that has to do with spark plug installation. And, of course, they have the NGT oxygen sensors, also great products. Okay, we are ready to take those phone calls, number 706-863-5800. And you can watch or send an email at ccautoshow.com. Joe, where are we going?
We're going to talk to Mike.
Hey, Mike, welcome to the C&C Auto Show, and what can we help you with?
Hey there, Mr. Aaron. How are you?
I
think I have a question
good.
more leaning toward Joe.
Let's do it.
His name is Joe DeLoach.
Yes, he is ready for you.
Hey, Joe, my grandfather has a 2003 or 4-ish Toyota Sienna van, and he's not quite familiar with the electrical diagnostic, but he has no brake light, but he has turn signals and running lights. Where should I start?
No brake lights, but has turn signals and running lights.
Yes,
Man, I'm
sir.
leaning towards the brake light switch off the gun on that one. It's
You talking about right there on the pedal, right? The brake pedal?
Yes, sir. I mean, that's where the brake light switch would be on that one.
Yes, sir.
If you got something
Well-
like that, usually obviously it wouldn't be a bulb type issue if your turn signals do work. Because I think that one does have, maybe it's separate bulbs for the turn signal or not. I can't remember. Does the third brake light work at all?
No, the third brake light don't work at all. He got pulled over this morning driving to the emergency room and said that the police officer told him he didn't have any brake lights, but he had his running lights. So I was just trying to see where I could go to help my grandfather to get him back safe on the road.
What do you think, Aaron?
Well, the first thing I do, like always, check the fuse first.
Sure.
If the fuse is good, next thing I would do is you can take a standard test light. Now, I don't recommend using standard test lights all the time, but you can use it in this circumstance. Go to the brake light switch and touch, and you should, if the pedal is in the completely up position, then you should have power to one of the wires going to the brake light switch, and then when you press it, you should get power to both. If you do, your problem is on further back, but if you don't, even when you press it down, then you got a bad brake light switch, which again is the most likely thing. But here's one thing that I doubted on this case, because you said the third member light don't work either. But I've had cases where people have had a lot of burned out bulbs. So
That's
definitely.
why I was asking on that one if the turn signal was the same bulb or if it was a separate bulb.
Yeah, I think turn signal is separate on that one, if I'm not, because it's
could
got
be
the
two
yellow
bulbs, yeah.
yellow turn signal lens. So I would say that go through that sequence, but very high probability. Now you may have a bad fuse, can do that, but
Okay.
the second thing is brake light switch without question is more common.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know y'all running short on time, but I would like an autographed hat from Joe DeLoach and Mr. Aaron Clements, if y'all don't mind. How would I be able to get that?
I'll bring it to you at work on Monday morning.
That'll work.
All right. Y'all have a great one.
Stop by and grab a hat. Thank you very much. Number to call, 706-863-5800. I had somebody come out of shop just yesterday, and they mentioned how much they enjoyed listening to the show. And as a matter of fact, the gentleman, I was trying to think of all the details, he was from Massachusetts, and he mentioned that he was here visiting and wanted to come by and say hello. And I did give him a hat.
You did?
I sure did.
Did you sign it?
No, I didn't sign it.
Oh,
No,
man.
I gave him a hat. And,
All right.
And he and something to remember us by. Okay, where we going?
We go ahead and talk to Sean about his Impala.
Hello, Sean. Welcome to the C&C Auto Show. And am I looking at this right? You're saying you have a 64 Impala?
That's right.
Oh, that is such a beautiful car. That's like an American icon, one of those. And of course,
Oh, yeah.
the early 60s was such a good time for American cars. They were changing every year and doing just wonderful things with designs. And
Look, we might even have one back in the garage. I don't know.
yeah, there's some back there. But yeah, just absolutely beautiful. What's it doing to you, Sean?
I'm having an ignition issue. Recently changed plugs, wires, cap, rotor button, and in the process, pulled the wire out of the ballast for the coil.
Uh-huh.
So got a replacement for that, and it seems more like a condenser, an ignition condenser, than it is the ballast for the coil. So I don't know if there's a difference there between those two.
Well, it's not running very well. You're running it, and
It won't turn over at all. I mean, it turns over, but it won't start.
oh, just you're not getting any spark on there. Okay, now of course I'm assuming that you did check the point gap on there. What was shoot? I'm trying to remember what that used to be. Was it?
I'll let you remember.
I'm thinking like 14, 16.
30,000.
What?
I'm not quite sure on that.
Yeah, I that part is forgotten, Sean. I hadn't set
Right,
points
and it
in
was it. running just fine before the change.
Okay, before you did anything, and you say you did put new points in condenser in there.
No, just the cap and rotor button.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So I'm not sure if the firing order could have been messed up there, just putting the new cap on or not.
Yeah.
The new cap and rotor.
With what you're describing, my guess is there's going to be a high probability that you may have got your sequence off on your cap. And the good thing is you can go to YouTube or anything on the internet and just say, what's the firing order for this vehicle? And it'll
Right.
show where each wire is supposed to be on the cap. and that won't be a very difficult thing to do. The next thing you want to do after that is find out if you do have the fire coming out of the ignition wires, and you could do
Right,
that.
and it has backfired through the carb a couple times. So I
Yeah.
have spark there, but I'm just concerned that there's a ballast that mounts beside the ignition coil that goes to the negative side there, and I got a replacement part for it, but what they gave me seems more like an ignition condenser than it is.
Yeah,
I
that
don't know if
was a
there's a
sound
difference.
suppressor for that part of it. What I'd recommend doing is start with getting those wires right. If you heard it, if it wasn't acting up before and it acted up after you put the cap on, and you're hearing it backfire through the cap, I would say 90% chance you've got those wires on in the wrong place. Just go in and get those straightened out first. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Well, that sounds good, and give that a shot and see how it does. Sean, if you have any other problems with that, like if that don't do the trick, and of course you don't want to wait till the next week to do that, don't hesitate to give me a call at work. I'll tell you anything I can, or if you need a diagram of the sequence or whatever. I don't think you've got anything big wrong. You just got something
No.
just needs a little small attention there.
Right.
Okay. Well, Sean, I appreciate the phone call. Very nice, and enjoy that 64 Impala. Again, that was just a beautiful vehicle. I used to, that's one of the prettier model cars back then. Okay. It is, the time clock's on E. We need to pull over for now, but we'll be back on the road in no time. I'm Aaron Clements with co-host Joe DeLoach.
Thanks for having me this week, Aaron.
Well, thank you for being here, Joe. We appreciate it. Our show producers are Dominic Frito, Sandy Klein, technical engineer Zach Llewellyn. We'd all like to say thank you to all of you that tuned in, logged in, and especially those that called in to ride with us in the C&C Auto Show.